Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel for another slight gear review, I guess it will be, but birding update. So obviously for this week there is a birding video missing. I have just been traveling around like crazy doing everything, and editing has unfortunately taken a downturn for me. So rather than just rush out a video, I'm going to be doing this instead. So there's just kind of that blank. Obviously it's May, everybody is busy birding. This is kind of the month for it. So it is going extremely well. In fact, I have a lot of updates for you guys for the series coming soon. But essentially, a couple months ago, I did a review on my Celestron combo, which was the Celestron Ultima 80 for my spotting scope, which we'll be talking about in a different video coming soon, and then my Celestron 8x42's Nature View DX binoculars. They were both fine beginners for me, and I was even talking about like the other brands for that price range that you could choose, and I decided also a couple months ago to finally get my first high-end pair of binoculars. Now, for me, high-end is essentially anything $1,000 or more, which in the beginning, when I first got started with this hobby, and even years ago when I was trying to pick out my first decent, $200 pair of binoculars, I didn't realize how insane the binocular market could get. And everybody has their favorite brand. Every brand has their preference to like, maybe one is extremely good, but maybe not necessarily good for the price. My new spotting scope is actually getting delivered today, and it was not the model I was going to choose, but after exhaustive just researches and videos and digiscoping between the two of them and stuff like that. But I will cover that obviously in a future video. This is for the binoculars. There's always levels of experience and stuff like that, and certain brands are obviously going to be your favorite, but then certain brands are also known by anybody in the optics world. So whether it be hunting scopes, spotting scopes, binoculars, whatever, you have a brand preference, and if you don't, there's plenty out there. So for me, I went with Zeiss. Now they're obviously one of the best known brands in the world for optics. They are not necessarily budget friendly in terms of a company, depending, again, everybody's budget is different. But they have a starter pair, which I believe is called the Terras, which start at 500, which is obviously a lot nicer than some of their other price ranges for Zeiss. However, they aren't the best. Like if you look at the reviews for them, they aren't Zeiss quality. They're all manufactured differently from as far as I can tell. So just be careful when you go with high-end brands that make budget gear, because that doesn't always mean that it is better. Just because like honestly for fishing, Abu Garcia is a big point there. Like Abu Garcia makes some extremely high-end gear, and then they make beginner gear. And obviously this isn't a fishing video, but that is just a good way to look at it. Just because a brand is high-end does not mean all of their products are good, and it doesn't always mean they're good for the price. So for me, and I will show off obviously everything once I'm done with the intro here, I went with the Zeiss 10x42 Conquest HDs. They are the single best pair of binoculars I have ever used, whether there's other people's around. I have used a friend of mine's Vortex razors, and I think these are better in my personal opinion. The low light performance, the color accuracy, the contrast is disgustingly good. It is fantastic. Now these bad boys do sell for depending on the size that you go for, $1,000 or more. They have bigger optics of this series which go up to like 1,700, but this specific pair of the 10x42s were $1,000 on the nose, and there is no going back for me now. And that's the problem. I was looking for a spotting scope. It's like, I don't want to settle now. So, but I've been using these bad boys for a couple months, a few months, I should say now. And I wanted to kind of get like a good full understanding of it for, a pretty good performance, get through the majority of spring migration and like some of the winter months. And it has been a journey, and they are worth it for me for every single dollar amount that I paid for them. Now, if you're looking for a good place to buy your optical gear, I'm not sponsored in any way or affiliated with them, although I'd love to be. Euro Optics out of Pennsylvania. We actually have a store in Muncie, and I was put onto them. Didn't even know there was a store in Pennsylvania for them. I was put onto their website, and I got these bad boys for a few $100s off. Their sales are incredible. That's also where I bought my spotting scope from that is coming today. It is an amazing company. They offer some insane discounts. Like the razor, the Vortex razors were like $800 off or something crazy. So you can get some fantastic deals on gear there. Again, not affiliated or sponsored, but fast shipping, great reliability. Like, they're fantastic for our company. So absolute shout out to them. If you guys are looking for great optical gear, definitely look there. You can obviously find this stuff at Cabela's. Just be very careful. Certain brands, I know Vortex does, and it's not necessarily a jab at any company, but if you look at the Vortex Vipers between your optics or an actual optical gear company and Cabela's, big box stores similar to like TVs for like Black Friday and stuff, they have different SKUs, and they're most likely manufactured slightly differently, whether that is they're no longer made in America or made in Germany. They could be made in China. Again, we're not getting into manufacturing here, but that is a big way to kind of look at, again, the prices between the two of them. If you're looking at two identical items and one's retailing for $1,400, one's retailing for $900, and they're both full price and saying the same thing, that is weird. You should look up the SKU and do some digging. And again, you don't have to do $1,000 for binoculars. There's budget pairs out there. Depending on how serious you take this, if you're hunting with them, if you're just bird watching, animal watching, whatever. Again, there's a range for everything. Just make sure you do your homework on a lot of this stuff. Like, I wasn't necessarily happy with my Celestrons. I wish I would have went with Vortex for that price range, but neither here nor there. I'm sure I'll get a pair of Vortexes here eventually, but I am blown away by the Zeiss Conquest HDs. Again, it is a brand that does not need me, a small YouTuber, to tell you guys how amazing it is, but it is fantastic. And when you're talking about a lot of the big companies, I mean, Swarovski, the only downside for Swarovski products are the price. You're starting in the thousands by far. So again, like their spotting scope, like the equivalent to what I got would have been like $3,000 plus. I don't have that at the moment. I actually just bought a new lens, so definitely don't have that right now. But Swarovski, Zeiss, Kowa, Vortex, you can see some Bushnells and SIGs here and there, but again, depending on what you're using them for, aren't always the best. You can even get some used pairs of like Nikon Monarchs and Pro Staffs, and do your homework. Definitely, depending on what you're doing, where you are, size of binoculars is also important. 10x42s are more comfortable for me in close range and far distance, but when you're ocean watching, you can obviously get 15x56s and something crazy for binoculars, but then you're better off with a spotting scope. So with anything else, this is my personal review and thoughts of a really, really amazing pair of binoculars. But again, do with what you will. It's your budget. Pick what you want. Just make sure you do a reliable, good brand. If your budget's $50, I always recommend, like, hey, save up for maybe something a little bit better. If you're looking at like the $1,000 plus range, that's when you get into some serious, like, okay, everyone's good, but that's time to nitpick. So definitely make sure you go through. There's some amazing YouTubers out there that have some awesome videos on these products. I'm incredibly happy with what I chose. Now let's take a look at it. All right, everybody. So, of course, it does come in a very, very large box. In terms of carrying this, it does come with a neck strap. However, I wanted to do something a little bit different with this, and a huge conundrum for a lot of birders is getting comfortable carrying binoculars and a camera and having access to both right away. The way I found to mitigate this, and I believe it was a Reddit user, honestly, that I was reading an old thread of how to carry both, getting a like actual harness for your binoculars. Now, this is the Zeiss one. This does not come with it. This was an extra like $85, which was absolutely insane, and I'm very enthusiastic about that. But it is gorgeous. It makes carrying 10x42 super easy. Really nice leather in the back, and it does connect through these two little pieces, so that's why these are sitting here. Those are just part of the actual harness. You can get cheaper versions, but you know, I spent the money on the Zeiss. I'm gonna finish what I'm started here. But in terms of if you don't want that, or if you're looking for just the in-the-box solution, it does come with a normal binocular neck strap, so definitely not too bad. Again, nothing too special to write home about it. It was relatively comfortable, and I liked it better than Celestrons, but I don't prefer anything over the actual like shoulder straps for this. They are just fantastic. And if you're carrying a camera with it, what you can do is do a shoulder strap, like a single shoulder strap for the camera, and it'll like straddle over these. Fantastic. I carry these, a full-length camera with 400mm lens, and now teleconverter and a whole 9 yards, and a shoulder, like a sling bag. Perfectly fine. So if you're looking to carry both, I would definitely recommend taking a look at those. Again, you can find cheaper versions of this, but I wanted to stick with one name brand. And also, you know, at the end of the day, I want to get a good harness. I want to get a good shoulder strap, whatever you want to call these things, that is actually going to keep my expensive gear secure. For a camera harness, I'll do a video on this eventually as well. Do Black Rapid. Again, it's like $100 for the shoulder harness, but metal screws and the whole 9 yards. So basically, at the end of the day, the best logic I can give you guys is if you're carrying around expensive equipment that you want to obviously take care of and have it for a very, very, very long time, then I highly recommend getting good pieces of equipment to hold it. So in terms of what else is in the bag, you do of course have a couple of actual caps for the front and the back. I honestly forgot to put those in the bag for when I was doing this video, and it comes of course with this carrier, spare little extension straps as well, but overall pretty solid, definitely for transport. You can of course carry your stuff around in this. Yeah, again, not everybody's going to be carrying around a full-length camera and stuff like I do, for all of their, you know, birding journeys and stuff like that. So at the end of the day, in the box, you know, not too bad. There's enhancements, obviously, like I did, that can be made to it. But overall, definitely looks pretty solid. I've got to clean these things off, too. I've been doing so much traveling. They're getting beat up a little bit. But in terms of weight, perfectly fine. Like, they obviously are going to be a little bit heavier than an 8x42, but not too much. 8x42 is like the standard for binoculars for birding, but I much prefer the 10x42s. Now the low light performance is a huge feature for these guys here. And honestly, the biggest thing that made me want to upgrade my optics wasn't even just distance. It was low light performance. So essentially a few months ago, it was a pink-footed goose, Chester County. I drove an hour and 15 minutes to go get it in the middle of winter. So like this was February, I think. Thankfully the snow held off for long enough for me to go and see it. And by the time I got there, I literally would never have found it with my gear because the low light performance was terrible. Like, even at that point, I was also learning my new lens and my new camera, and, you know, trying to get a photo of it was obviously tough. I ended up getting one, but, trying to pick one goose out of 400 in an open field at dusk was tough. And the guy next to me, who was actually leaving, he came back to show me where the goose was to help me out. And, you know, pink-footed goose is a nice, really rare bird. And thankfully he had gear that was good in low light. So he had a Vortex, I think it was Razor or, the Viper or Diamondback, I think. But regardless, the low light performance was so much better than what I had. And I said, all right, that is like that's a weakness of mine. And a lot of times, you know, there's not going to be one set lens or one set binocular that's going to do everything well. So it's nice to have a couple of different items at your disposal. And I went out and ordered these within a week after that exchange. And the main reason being, it was like I would have missed the rarest bird of my career so far if I didn't have something that was good at low light. I've utilized these on water, in the woods. Obviously at night, no, but when you get to that low light situation, and that's something you hear a lot about, these have excelled better than any optic I've ever used. And now, obviously, I don't have a lot of experience with Swarovski or honestly, I've never used a Koa. Though that's one brand I definitely want to check out. But I utilize a lot of other people's gear when I'm out in the field as much as I can, just to try and see, like, especially for you guys or anybody watching, or like me, when you're just trying to learn into the hobby more, seeing and utilizing other people's gears definitely make it like an experience for you. And I've utilized a lot of Vortexes in my day. That is why I reference that brand quite a bit. This was one of my first experiences with Zeiss, but the reputation definitely stood the test of time for me, and they are insanely beautiful. I have ID'd more birds based off of these than my camera, my spotting scope, and my other pair of binoculars combined. They're unbelievable. I find myself reaching for this before my camera sometimes, which I know will annoy some of the the watchers of my birding YouTube outside of this, but they are absolutely fantastic. The low light performance, the balance, the actual lens and the glass quality is gorgeous. They are by far and away the best pair I've ever used, and I'm incredibly happy that I invested in them, because at the end of the day, binoculars, spotting scope, camera lenses, these are made to be investments. These are not things that if you take care of them and don't drop them or break them, or hopefully don't ever get them stolen, this is an investment. This isn't something that's going to wear out in a couple years. This is something that should be with you for a very long time. Hell, I know people that have their binoculars from 30 years ago. So at the end of the day, again, you can pick whatever brand you want. This is just my personal opinion and my experience with the Conquest HDs, but I will say without any second of a doubt that these have made me a better birder. I enjoy the hobby even more now that I have more confidence in the ability to see that small little tiny warbler or that little siskin, 80 yards away in a tree. It's like, wow, this is better than looking through my own eyes. So again, obviously, everybody's needs are different. Definitely make sure to do your homework. Order from a reliable company. If you're looking at used optics, definitely an option. You can always double check the used market out there. That is where I've gotten some lenses, or even if I'm just trying other gear, like older cameras or just older lenses or older optics, just for some, just for kind of taking a look at what brand I like. More power to anybody. The used optics market out there is fantastic, especially when you have people that want a new thing every now and then. But that's going to do it for this review, you guys. Thank you all so much for joining me. Like, comment, subscribe, share the video if you can, and follow me on Instagram if you guys want a sneak peek into all of my birding expositions and all of the adventures that I go on. I'll be talking about my new spotting scope here in the next couple of weeks. I usually try and space them out a little bit more, but we'll see. I definitely want to test that out and obviously use it. So I would say probably a few months from now until that video comes out, but depending on how much I use it, we shall see. And I'll see you next time. Happy birding, everybody.